Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. I want to begin by asking you, how do you see Mark Carney's selection as Prime Minister, and will he solve Canada's problems?
Well, Mr. Carney was just selected hours ago, and only time will tell in terms of his ability to handle the many, many issues that our country is facing. Mr. Carney has never been elected before for any type of political position, so this is the first time, that he has been elected, and that too as the Prime Minister, so only time will tell of his ability to handle the numerous challenges that Canadians are facing when it comes to the cost of living, the increase in prices for the cost of living at that, the affordability increase in prices of homes, of gas, of grocery prices, and also the many threats that Canada is continuing to face from the President of the United States, Mr. Trump.
Okay, Ms. Dhalla, then you've brought up Donald Trump, so I want to understand your position on Trump's tariffs and what's really needed to perhaps not escalate this trade war further.
Well, no one really wants any type of escalation. Canada and the United States have been friends for many, many years, and they work so well when all of our economies are so intertwined, together. And we have to ensure that we in Canada also start looking at a buy in Canada, made in Canada approach. The current status right now is that Mr. Trump has imposed 25% of tariffs on numerous products. There's another 25% that is coming in on April the 2nd. We see the steel and the aluminum industry, another 25%. There's tax of 10% on energy. And what Canada has done as a retaliatory measure is that energy, which heats many homes, over 1.5 million homes that are heated in 3 particular states, including New York, Minnesota, and Michigan, Canada has gone and put a 25% tariff on the energy that is going into the United States. There's almost a $2.2 trillion of economic trade that occurs between both nations. So any type of tariff tax is going to affect the increase in cost of living, the increase in utility bills, the increase in grocery prices, not only for Canadian families, but also for American families. We're going to start to see very large plants that produce automobiles actually shut down. People are going to start to lose their jobs. So both economies are going to be affected. And when I was in the leadership race to become Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party, I actually spoke about the importance of having a negotiated deal in which the Canadians and the American families would both walk out as winners, because it is very important that we negotiate a deal in which both countries will win. The tax by the United States president, the tariff taxes, are simply not the answer for long-term prosperity.
Ms. Dhalla, I also want to understand from you, why do you think your candidature was disqualified?
150% when you talk to all of the Canadians that have expressed their anger. When I entered the race to become the leader of the Liberal Party and Canada's next Prime Minister, I can tell you that the race itself was historic. I was the first woman of color, the first woman from a multicultural community to ever run for the leadership race of the Liberal Party, and also to become Canada's next Prime Minister. There was a tremendous amount of excitement from all of the country, from different parts of Canada. People were so incredibly excited. Also by the fact that I was talking about bringing the party back to the center. I was talking about progressive policy ideas to really, address the many challenges that our country and Canadian families are facing. As a doctor, I had great knowledge and insight into the healthcare crisis our country has. As a self-made businesswoman in hospitality, I had great insight into the overburdening of taxes that Canadians feel, and that businesses, the challenges that they feel, and actually the creation of jobs. And being a businesswoman, I also had the ability to negotiate with Mr. Trump as the President of the United States States because he is a businessman. So I spoke throughout my whole campaign of this particular tariff tax that myself as a businesswoman, Mr. Trump as a businessman, we would sit down and negotiate a deal. And I would have ensured that Canadian families, Canadian businesses in Canada would have walked out as a winner. As I spoke about these policies, our momentum in our campaign was growing on a day-to-day basis. The excitement was building. And all of a sudden, I was the only one that was questioning the establishment, that was wanting a change because I was speaking on behalf of Canadians, because I was challenging the status quo and the establishment. The party simply did not want that. They did not want Ruby Dhalla on that debate stage. They did not want Ruby Dhalla on that ballot. And they wanted to complete the coronation of their chosen candidate, Mark Carney, which is the winner that we had tonight. And I think the Liberal Party underestimated and did not actually, realize that 11.8 million people would engage over social media channels to express their anger at the fact that my disqualification was an attack on Canadian democracy. It was an attack on fairness, attack on justice in our country. But most importantly, it was an attack on people's right to vote and to choose who they wanted to lead the Liberal Party, and most importantly, who they wanted as the voter to actually become their Prime Minister. And even tonight, as Mr. Carney is chosen, our Twitter, our social media feeds, our emails, everything is flooded with people saying, we wanted to have the choice to choose you. And one thing that's very interesting that happened tonight, the Liberal Party actually had 400,000 members that we had signed up. But tonight, only 150,000 people voted for not only Mark Carney, but the other three candidates. So we have 250,000 people that never cast their ballot. So when you think to yourself, if I had been in the race and those people had cast their ballot, I think the outcome tonight would have been very different and it would have been historic. But
okay, Ms. Dhalla, I also want to understand from you, India-Canada ties are currently at their worst, perhaps due to Justin Trudeau squarely. How crucial is restoring this relationship for Canada?
I think, first of all, it is very important that any leader and our Prime Minister ensure the protection and the safety of Canadians. But strictly speaking, from an economic perspective, I think given the fact that Mr. Trump's tariff taxes are really going to have a very, very serious impact for Canadian families, Canadian workers, Canadian businesses, and the Canadian economy, it is very important for the Prime Minister to create trade and strengthen those relationships and diversify the trading relationships with other countries in the world. And as you said, Mr. Trudeau did not have a good relationship with India, and I hope that the new Prime Minister is going to reset the relationship, because strictly from an economic perspective, having a positive trade relationship, a very robust trade relationship, an economic relationship with India will help to ensure that our economy can no longer be hijacked or at the mercy of one foreign leader. The other element of it is a very large Indian diaspora that exists here in Canada. It is such a great opportunity for the Prime Minister to be able to utilize the strength, the experiences that the diaspora has to strengthen the trade and the economic partnership with countries like India.
Ms. Dhalla, talking about the Indian diaspora, I also want to understand your perspective on concerns that have been raised by India over the issue of Khalistanis and pro-Khalistani elements being given haven in Canada.
I can't really comment on that because obviously the Prime Minister and those that have the security level of clearance that the Prime Minister and Trudeau did are privy to information that is not available to anyone else, but I can tell you for 100% certain, because I spoke about it during my campaign, that as the Prime Minister or as the leader, I would have ensured that I would have had zero tolerance against any Canadian ever being attacked, for their religious beliefs or for their faith. We are a country that has been built on the very foundation of the hopes and the hard works of immigrants, and I would have zero tolerance for anyone attacking anybody in Canada over any type of religious belief or their faith, which we have had numerous incidents of in the past and previous months.
Okay, Ms. Dhalla, my last question to you. Do you see Mark Carney's economic past as somewhere being helpful in navigating through Canada's current economic and housing crisis?
There is definitely an economic crisis, in the country. The cost of living has increased substantially. Affordability, for homes, for gas prices, for putting groceries on the table, everything has skyrocketed, and we must ensure that we have proper leadership moving forward so that not only Canadian families but Canadian businesses can start to prosper. We have to start stimulating the economy. We have to start strengthening our trade relationships with other countries globally so that our economy is no longer hijacked by one foreign leader, or that we as a country don't invest all of our eggs in one basket like we've done with the United States. So I think that the economic credentials of Mr. Carney on the books look great, but only time is going to tell if he is going to be able to deliver. Mr. Carney is not battle tested or battle ready. This is his first election campaign that he has ever done. And, when I was disqualified, one of the reasons that we heard from various party officials is that they did not want to have me debate Mr. Carney on that debate stage, and they were fearful of the type of questions that I would ask him. They did not want to have anyone have opposing views. So the one, debate in English that Mr. Carney has done, which is during this leadership campaign, it was more like a friendly family group chat amongst himself and the other candidates. When he goes into an election campaign, they're not going to be able to disqualify the leaders of the opposition party, so he will have to debate them. And I think that during that period of time, the skill sets that Mr. Carney has will be coming to light and will be showcased. And I think his economic credentials will only be put to the test based on the decisions that he makes, because as they say, actions always speak louder than words.
Okay, all right. Ms. Ruby Dhalla, thank you so much for joining us on Newsx with that perspective. It's great to hear that voice coming in directly from Canada on